So it got to the point where I was making a good amount of money on the side. And I tell folks, when you have your side income, try to have enough money to cover your bills for maybe 3 to 4 or 3 to 6 months, or have enough where you're making enough residual income every month to cover your bills and then some just in case for an emergency fund.
Do you ever deal with like that imposter syndrome or?
Oh, of course, man. I still deal with it now. I still feel it with it now. You know, it's one of those things where you always feel like, you know, hey, is this going to be good enough? You know, are people going to like this? Are people going to think I'm just like this fraud? But I think it's important to have emphasis on the entire journey. I say do it because it started as a side hustle. You know, I think that a misconception a lot of people have is you have to go 100 hours at first to build a business and build an idea and build something to a tangible business. When in reality, you can, if you're working 9 to 5, you know, you can work 7 to 10, Monday through Friday, and on the weekends, building up a side hustle. And I think that a side hustle is important because, one, you're gonna learn a skill set outside of what you do when you're day-to-day. And don't be scared to ask for help. Hey guys, what do you think of this menu and the changes and transitions that it made? Or what do you guys think about this? I've been in this web design for 12 years and I still jump in there and ask questions because you can never feel like you know everything. Just be an open book, absorb as many skills and things that you can, and then leverage the community to get feedback and have an ecosystem that you can always lean on. Give selfishly and profit, right? So you're giving selflessly to the community, and then in exchange, you're able to profit from that and live a sustainable life.
On Saunders. Today we have John as a special guest here at Mindset Warriorz. John D. Saunders is a web designer and founder at 54 Digital and an automation expert with a decade of experience building brands online, working with brands like Land Rover, Audi, and NAACP. He has utilized website development, standard operating procedures, content marketing, and social media strategy to create marketing campaigns that resonate with the consumer, drive consistent sales and conversions. John's main focus is to provide value to business owners and entrepreneurs through web design and marketing strategy by launching an online course with more than 1,900 active students and building, scaling, and selling 3 e-commerce businesses. John hopes to continue spreading digital marketing knowledge around the world while providing stellar marketing tactics to local and national business owners. John is also the founder and lead content creator at blackwallet.org, a financial literacy blog for urban millennials discussing investing and more. Lastly, John recently launched blackillustrations.com to provide 40 plus free illustrations for use with websites featuring people of color. John received multiple awards and been featured. He's been featured on Voyage Miami, Miami New Times. He's been a Udemy premium instructor, has an agency that's a top reviewed agency in South Florida, and has been a keynote speaker for Black Tech Week and Startup FIU. John, thank you for being here, man. I'm super.
Oh man, that was the whole shebang, huh?
It's only gonna keep getting longer, man.
Probably got bored. They're like, "Who's this guy?"
It's only gonna keep getting longer. I know you, so it's exciting to be able to see the journey.
Appreciate that, man.
So awesome, man. I wanted to cover. I'll give you a quick high level of what I have planned for today. I didn't prep you at all. I kind of wanted to.
I'm running in, guns blazing.
I'm pretty sure you have kind of a general idea of what we're going to touch. So there are 4 main areas I wanted to speak with you in regards to. The first one is your transition into entrepreneurship. So we'll dive into that. The second one would be building community. I think you're a great person to speak onto that. Starting more than one venture. I definitely want to hear your perspectives around that. And then why start Black Wallet and Black Illustrations? So those are the 4 main areas I kind of want to dive into today. I feel like they'll give a good insight into who you are, what you're about, how you operate, your mindset, and hopefully the audience gets to really enjoy and benefit from all the value you're going to share. I know you're going to share. So let's dive in. Let's talk about, kind of your journey. I know you I guess you technically had a traditional journey. I know you did work for an agency at some point full time, and then you had a kind of a transition. I don't want to give too much away, but I want to know how you ended up going on to build your own business. Your first.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I never really saw myself as an entrepreneur. Never thought that was an option growing up. Fundamentally, I was just like, I'll get a good job and I'll try and do well for my family, and that was pretty much it. So for me, even now, I still don't necessarily see myself as an entrepreneur. I more so see myself as just a facilitator and a person that likes to launch really cool projects and things that provide value to folks. And so the transition for me was I was working at a marketing agency, which I highly recommend to a lot of folks. Whatever job you're trying to do, whatever career you're trying to break into, it's always a good idea to work for someone else. You get paid to learn, you get paid to develop your skills. You can learn from your boss, they can become your mentors. And it's just a great way to test your theories and your ideas and really grow your skill set. And a lot of times when you work for someone else, you're able to work on bigger clients because, they have that bigger ecosystem. So, I was able to work with Land Rover and Audi and Range Rover and all these really cool brands because I was working at that agency, something it would take me, 10, 15, 20 years to do on my own. So, I absorbed everything that I could at that agency. Those 4 years that I was there, I learned from my boss, my mentor, what to do, what not to do. And for me, since it was directly an automotive, all of our clientele was pretty much automotive dealerships. I wanted to break out and work with startups and other types of companies to really broaden my skill set. And so I approached the boss and I was like, listen, I'm thinking about starting my own thing and leaving, but thank you for everything you provided. And so in that segue, I actually took another job after I left that agency at an exotic car rental company, which was kind of wild to me because it was still in the car realm, but I could take all these skills that I learned and I was able to work there at full-time at first and then transitioning into part-time. So I left that full-time gig as marketing director, overseeing the staff, took a pay cut, took this position at MPH Club, which is the exotic car rental company. You probably heard of them. They're here down in Miami. And then when I started there, we had like maybe 4 or 5 cars in our inventory. And so the boss and I worked together. I was like, the best bet, the best thing that's going to get us on top is high quality SEO, because none of the exotic car rental companies are doing it. So dude, over the course of a year and a half, 2 years, we created more than 600 pages, tons of social media content. They're ranking #1 still right now for thousands of keywords. And so they get a consistent amount of traffic for free. They were able to grow the fleet from about 3 to about, I think it's at 18 or maybe 20 something now. I got a chance to drive Lambos, Ferraris, Audis, because you have to test drive it to be able to, create content and really resonate with the brand. So dude, it was awesome. And so while I was there, I was picking up work and projects on the side. So it got to the point where I was making a good amount of money on the side. And I tell folks, when you have your side income, try to have enough money to cover your bills for maybe 3 to 4 or 3 to 6 months, or have enough where you're making enough residual income every month to cover your bills and then some just in case for an emergency fund. And so once I got to that point, I was like, guys, listen, I can't be here every day. I need to either do part-time or come in a couple of days a week. And they agreed. So eventually I ended up being a couple of days there. The rest of my time I'll spend talking to clients, building my clientele and my base. And then it got to the point where they were like, well, it got to the point where I couldn't even come in any days. And I was just like, I'll work remotely. You guys will almost become one of my clients. And that worked for 4 or 5 months. But then they were like, this isn't really working for us. They wanted someone in the office. And I was like, I understood. I got it. We were still doing high quality work. Everything was there. But some companies, they couldn't embrace the remote movement yet, right? Where we're at right now, basically. So that was when I just was on 5-4 Digital full-time. So I started with 5-4 almost part-time, transitioned to full-time. And it's been 6 years since I started Launch, man. And I can't even look back, man. It's been an awesome ride.
Oh, that's awesome. You made a specific comment there when you were working full-time at the agency that was servicing the dealerships, that you kind of had that conversation with your boss where you wanted to broaden your skill set, explore different other areas or niches or markets. I kind of want to dive in a little deeper into where that spark of interest for entrepreneurship, or that extra, I guess, like you could say, healthy ambition, to better yourself. Where did that come from? Like what kind of triggered that? And for some extra context, you said you worked there for 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So how did you foster that? Because I'm sure it wasn't
It
like,
was, for me,
like the moment you
and
walked in, it was like,
it was a culmination, man. It was a
yeah.
culmination of things. One was, so I had a coworker there that was the marketing director before me, and I was working under him, and he was working there like part time, just kind of like as a consultant. And he had his own agency. He's like, man, he's like, you have all these skill sets. There's no cap on when you do this on your own. There's no salary cap. You could do really well. And so and seeing his lifestyle, he was able to kind of travel and move around and do things with his kids. I was like, if I want to have that type of lifestyle, I don't know if I can have it while I'm working full time here in this position. It was an hour to work, an hour back home, sometimes an hour and a half. There were just so many hours in the day that were taken because I was working in this position. And myself, I don't downplay anyone that works from 9 to 5. There are a lot of 9 to 5ers I know that are multimillionaires that do well for themselves, that do their thing. So it really depends on your preference and what you're looking for. So for me, I was like, okay, I want to do things where I have the freedom to kind of work on the projects that I want. And then I had that maybe 2.5 years in, but it took a culmination of one day I was doing work at night and working in the day, and I was staying there and I fell asleep at the wheel. And I woke up on the side of the road unscratched. I was unscathed. I was fine. I was like, damn, man, I gotta really make a decision here on what I want to do. And so that was almost the spark that really helped make that transition, because it was a great position. I learned a ton there. I was able to really grow and develop my skills.
Okay, so you mentioned this individual that you knew had an agency as well. Do you think that kind of was like a spark?
Absolutely.
Or you right
Absolutely.
there, like when you saw someone else, having that lifestyle that you wanted, that's kind of what made you think, well, why not me? Or what can I do to
Exactly. Why can't I do the same thing and really build my business?
Because did you initially go into that full-time job thinking you wanted to go into business for yourself?
No, no, no. I never even thought about it at first. I never even saw myself as an entrepreneur, honestly. It was one of those things where I had the skill set, but I didn't really know at the time.
Okay. And I can relate to that. I don't think a lot of people have that, person around all the time, right? Like some folks, their parents maybe are entrepreneurs, they got to see it. But I always like to ask that question because usually it's someone that you see that and something just clicks. You're just like,
yeah, because
what do I got to do?
It's basically out of sight, out of mind. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So if you don't see it directly and it's not correlated directly to you in your life, it's like you feel like it's so far removed that it's not even realistic. But then when you see someone that doing it, you're like, okay, it is possible.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. How would you say that you took that concept and continue to apply it at 5-4 Digital? Because, I mean, you had to prove yourself when you went to MPH Club, right? You needed to prove that you could deliver value and help them grow. But what was like that experience like, I guess from a mindset level, right? Like, I have this client, it's a lot of pressure because you have to deliver results for them. At the same time, you're trying to grow your income and take on more clients. How are you dealing with that mentally? Like, what were you doing to kind of keep you, delivering and on top of your game?
I mean, back then, man, and now that I'm 34 now, this is I'm like 29, 28. Back then I was just working a lot. I was working 14, 16, sometimes 18-hour days to get everything done. And when you're young and hungry, you don't have a ton of responsibilities. Like it's easier to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to be doing it forever because you're going to be chasing your tail and you can't scale. So for me, it was really thinking about, okay, what's important? Where do I want to focus my efforts? And then transitioning from there. And I'll get into how I got into really creating operating procedures and hiring team members and independent contractors and that type of thing. But ultimately, yeah, man, I was just working a lot.
Did you ever deal with like that imposter syndrome or?
Oh, of course, man. I still deal with it now. I still feel it with it now. It's one of those things where you always feel like, hey, is this going to be good enough? Are people going to like this? Are people going to think I'm just like this fraud? But I think it's important to have emphasis on the entire journey and the process. You're going to learn, you're going to make mistakes, but I think it's good to showcase that to your audience to say, hey, you know, these are the mistakes that I made. These are the things that I did to fix it. Some of my most engaging content is the ones where I talk about my mistakes and things that I've done that have messed me up, right? So I think it's being transparent and then chronicling that journey. I don't know if that's a word, or recording that journey as you go.
Okay. And like, I guess on that topic, like I know the ecosystem has changed, right? In the last 6 years, it's evolved like crazy. I mean, everybody's forced to go remote now. Like it's insane to even experience this, but awesome at the same time, right? You know, not regarding there's a pandemic going around, but you know, focusing on the good that came out of this. What practical advice would you give to someone like that might be maybe in your shoes when you first started, right? Like maybe they weren't thinking about going into business right away, but maybe they had that what if moment. Maybe they saw someone, especially right now, there's a lot of opportunities happening online. A lot of people are focusing on online now or sharing more. You know, business owners that were in business like 20 years that no one knew who they were are now starting to share what they did to develop their success. And that's creating this whole ripple effect. Like it's starting to get people to think like, oh man, well, damn, well, what can I do, right? So it's creating more of you back then when you had that like awakening moment. What advice would you give someone right now if they're going through that, if they're like considering starting something?
I say do it, because it started as a side hustle. You know, I think that a misconception a lot of people have is you have to go 100 hours at first to build a business and build an idea and build something into a tangible business. When in reality, you can, if you're working 9 to 5, you know, you can work 7 to 10 Monday through Friday, and on the weekends building up a side hustle. And I think that a side hustle is important because one, you're going to learn a skill set outside of what you do in your day-to-day job. So for example, if you're like, I'm going to open up a t-shirt store, you're going to learn how to use Shopify, how to use third-party apps, how to use analytics, how to set up print on demand, how to source products from Alibaba or AliExpress. So, you know, you're learning this entire skill set while you still have a full-time job, and you're having something else that you can leverage to maybe create an online store for yourself. Maybe you can sell that you create e-commerce stores to other business owners. I mean, the possibilities are endless. So I always go into a side project or an idea with the sense of, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm trying to do. Of course, you want to monetize it, but you also want to learn as much as you can about that business, so that way you can leverage it into a skill set and start to build things more. So if someone's thinking about jumping ship or becoming an entrepreneur, I wouldn't say quit your job off for it, because people have responsibilities. Some people got kids, you know, they have parents that they're taking care of. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. But what you can always do is you can trade your time for this skill, acquire the skill, and then grow it and develop it to the point where it's making enough money where you got to be like, listen, I got to leave this full-time job. Or you have both. You know, I know plenty of people that have full-time jobs and they have multiple real estate properties, or they have a full-time job and on the weekend they do they drive around and do bounce houses. I mean, the sky's the limit. It really depends on that individual and what they want to do.
That's awesome. And without getting too into the rabbit hole, because I know we could definitely go there on this topic. I mean, it's a really important topic, and like it's extremely valuable to discuss right now, because right, like I could talk about all the mistakes I made when I was trying to start. But what do you think are important characteristics, at least to keep in mind while you're exploring the side hustle, that won't lead to you crashing and burning or thinking that business is not for you, right? Because a lot of people, they lose that motivation, or they have a bad experience, they get burned, they make mistakes, and they're just like, you know, I don't want anything to do with this.
Got it.
And it's just because they didn't know, or they didn't have the right mentorship or guidance. So what do you think is important to keep in mind?
I think two main things. One, focus on education and self-improvement. I read a ton of books, man. This one I just finished right now, Atomic Habits.
Nice.
I find books in the space of where you're trying to work. Find resources, courses. Don't be scared or fearful to spend that money because it's going to come back in a skill set. This book was $12, and now I'm learning how to, apply different habits. You can see my notes and my tabs here in my daily life. So that's one. And then two, join communities of like-minded individuals like yourself. So for me, we do a lot of web design. We've transitioned almost probably 90% of our business now is through Webflow, which is a newer content management system, website builder. So in order to get great at Webflow, I'm taking online courses. I'm in Facebook communities with other Webflow designers, asking questions, answering questions. So become a part, and I'm gonna say ecosystem again, become a part of that ecosystem and don't be scared to ask for help. Hey guys, what do you think of this menu and the changes and transitions that it made? Or what do you guys think about this? I've been in this web design for 12 years and I still jump in there and ask questions because you can never feel like you know everything. Just be an open book, absorb as many skills and things that you can, and then leverage the community to get feedback and have an ecosystem that you can always lean on.
It's beautiful. And I think it's a great transition point for us to discuss building community, which is an awesome topic. I think you're one of the leaders I really admire that does a really good job. Keep it authentic. And you're very good at it. You're very good at building community. So I guess I'm curious to know, how did you discover that community building? Like, it's the way, like it really is it's like proven that, it can lead to success. It could lead to monetization. It could lead to value. I mean, new ventures, so many opportunities can come from community building. How did you kind of pinpoint that that's like one skill set I'm going to freaking develop?
Well, for me, man, it was, I've always been pretty introverted, kind of shy, a little awkward. So when I started the agency, I was going to like a lot of physical events. I was doing a lot of videos. I was reading books, How to Win Friends and Influence People is one of my favorites. But ultimately, I was just trying to learn how to be more extroverted. And so I'm an introvert, but I try to pose as an extrovert to really create conversations and come out of my comfort zone. And so for me, online communities are easy because it's all virtual, right? I'm not meeting that person. I'm not meeting them in person. We're all talking and we're all connecting through a common thread, which could be web design or SEO or whatever we're talking about at the time. So when it comes to community, the best way to kind of approach that is to say, how can I add value? That's it. I'm not a good sales guy. I don't sell. I just provide massive value to my audience. And I position myself as that person that they go to when they need the services that I provide. So I'm always talking about web design, branding, web design, branding. These are the tools that I use. These are the things that I use. This is the step-by-step process. A lot other agency owners are like, dude, you're giving away too much free bars. You're giving away too many keys, man. You're giving away your whole business blueprint. I'm just like, man, listen, number one, most business owners are not going to have time to implement what I'm talking about. What I'm doing is I'm giving them tidbits that they can implement on a small scale. And then when they're ready to work fully and get the whole thing done, who do you think they're thinking about? Mm-hmm. They're thinking about me because I provided them with value consistently. So even if you have someone that's been following you for 4 years, they don't work with you. They could be telling their friends in the water cooler about the services and things that you do. They're telling their friends and family to follow you because you provide such massive value. And you're doing it not because you're trying to get clients out of it, but because you're trying to share what you know with the world. And that's it. That's the secret sauce, man. I don't do anything different than anybody else. I'm not a better guy on video. I just try to provide value and value that's actionable, not just like, hey, everybody, you need a social media page. No, it's, hey, this is my Instagram carousel template that I use for all of my pages and my engagement. Here it is for free, Yeah.
No, that's huge. I think that it's such a good point. And I think it does help. And it helps you stand out and it helps communicate like what you're truly about, which is that, hey, this is who I am. And whenever you're ready, if you're ready, you can come to me when that time comes. So I think that's a really important characteristic. Now, can you give us an example of like one of the first communities that you, I guess, started building and kind of what have the experiments been and, what can we save the audience
Yeah.
if they're thinking about building a community? What's the route to take?
So for me, one thing I always recommend, even if you're a full-time business owner, you have, I always recommend launching a side hustle. And that side hustle can be an extension of your main business. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but it was when I launched blackwallet.org. I launched it about 2.5 years ago. It's a financial literacy blog for urban millennials. The main reason I launched it is because there are some great websites out there. You have Penny Hoarder, you have NerdWallet, you have all these other websites, but there was nothing that spoke to like the urban community directly through our culture, through the things that we like and that we do. And so I created blackwallet.org, and I said, I'm going to release financial literacy content to our community so that they can get benefits and value. So one, we created the website, we had the blog. Two, I was a part of some Facebook communities already. So I was like, you know what, let's make a Facebook group. So we titled the Facebook group based on a high level keyword. That keyword was financial literacy tips. I think that's something that someone searches on Facebook. That's what I named the group. And then in that group, each day I would post content relevant to them. So I would repost blogs from the website. I repost financial literacy tips, things going on in the community, reshare popular Instagram posts, or anything that I found valuable, I would share in it. It's a good point to mix it up. Images, articles, polls work really well. So you're creating essentially your own community of people that are directly correlated to your brand. And so that's how I started it, and it started to trickle and open up.
And did you have that like master plan, or were you just kind of getting a feel for it in the beginning?
My plan was to
try different things, right? Because well,
as
you
a marketer,
probably have the experience to know how to monetize it. But I'm saying, like, for someone that's starting,
yeah.
When do you monetize, or is it when you?
Well, here's the thing about like building the community, like on a Facebook group, for example. You want to be providing massive value up front, and you want these people to become your main brand advocates. So they become almost like your test group for any products or things that you want to release. And people don't think about that, but you can essentially have a test group for all the things that you work on. So I went into the group saying, I want to create this community. And then once this community is built, we can create paid products. We can create free products. We can have this main group of people leverage that. So one example is, and I talk about this a lot, is the book. When I wrote a step-by-step guide to, excuse me, a step-by-step guide to building wealth from $1, I vetted the entire book through that group. So I posted the titles, right? Different titles of the book. Hey, what do you guys think of these titles for the book that I'm writing? Oh, I like this one. I like this one. Getting the community involved. I posted all the covers, different cover versions. Hey, AB, our designer, he worked on 5 different covers. What do you guys think of them? Oh, we all like this one. Okay, A is the one. Okay, here's a table of contents. Am I missing anything? Yeah, you're missing real estate investing. Okay. So having all these people a part of this process while I'm giving them massive value, all for free, all up front, I'm building this brand advocacy, this army of people that will go to war and say, hey, y'all need to check out blackwallet.org. You need to check them out. You need to do this. At the same time, we're building on social media. So we're building a Facebook following. We're building an Instagram following. We have about 250,000 followers on Instagram right now. So by doing these things consistently, that group is acting like the catalyst for everything that we do. So once that book launched, everybody in the group bought it. We became a bestseller because they were part of the process. They felt like they helped write the book, and they did. They helped us make the right decisions to cater to our definitive audience. So when you're building this group and you're using it to build this community and this following, make sure that you're providing them with value up front and ask them questions and things that they're looking for, because they're going to give you an honest answer. Oops.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think it's almost like you give yourself an infinite feedback loop, right? And that helps you just know what to do next, because you're constantly getting that feedback. That's awesome. One question I didn't get to ask, but I'll ask it now is, I mean, as you're building and you in your, I guess, initial years in building 5-4, did you encounter any like plateaus or any roadblocks? And like, what did you do to, I guess, shake it off or like repivot? Or
oh man, bro,
because, I mean,
dozens.
I've done agency, the agency thing too, and I'm curious to know kind of like what worked for you.
Yeah, Dozens, man. First one was when I started, I wanted to do everything myself. No, I got to do the SEO. So when I launched the agency, we were full service. So we did SEO, SEM, Facebook ads, web design, what's it called? Social media. We did everything. So and at first it was all me. So I was doing all these different projects. I was working more than I was at the agency, in my own agency, which I guess is normal, but it was just so overwhelming, man. And the mistakes I made were trying to bring on too many projects at once, not charging enough, to a point where I was just like going crazy, man. That's why I'm bald now. But so at that point, first thing I was like, okay, I need to charge more. And I looked at the numbers. I said, okay, the average web designer charges X per hour. I'm going to charge X per hour. And, you know, a couple years in, I had the skill set to be able to charge more premium prices, but I was scared to because I could push potential clients away. And I always thought, oh, I'm leaving money on the table if I'm not taking this client. And so you take on all these clients and you're just miserable. And you have clients that are just asking for the world that haven't paid you, you know, more than $1,000. So it was at that point where I was like, all right, I need to raise my prices. And then I need to start hiring team members. So that's when I hired my web developer. And then it started as a project basis. So based on the project, they're an independent contractor that we found on like Upwork or a platform like that. And then I was able to breathe a little bit, right? And then it got to a point where I was still working a ton. I was still doing a lot. And then I think the transition point for me was when my wife got pregnant. When she got pregnant, I was like, man, I can't be working all these hours. Like, I want to be able to spend time with her and my son. And that's when I was like, I need to start really doing standard operating procedures. And so my buddy, Ryan Stewart, I had interviewed him for my YouTube channel. He's another marketer as well. And he had always told me about, dude, you need to start doing SOPs. You need to start hiring virtual assistants, like having them do these tasks for you so you don't have to be in the business like this, you know, working 18 hours a day, doing like just like very minute tasks. So it was at that point that I was like, all right, let me do this. So I went through the business and I wrote down and listed every single task that we do within the business. So from adding analytics to a website, to adding images, to optimizing titles and meta descriptions, I created a master list of dozens and dozens and dozens of videos. And then I just started to hired a virtual assistant, hired a web designer, hired a digital designer. And now all of these tasks are being pushed to them. They have the training and things that they need, the step-by-step process, how our agency works. And now I get to a point where I'm just a project manager. I'm just going into Asana. I'm seeing, okay, this task was done. Hey, AB, how's this going? Or hey, Paulina, how's this? You know, just kind of touching base with my team and making sure stuff's getting done. And then I'm corresponding to the clients directly. And so now we're able to scale, you know, from $1,000 websites to a minimum 10K website, because we're providing such massive value and so many intricate pieces to this puzzle where it's all broken down by SOP, by staff, and I'm managing the whole thing.
No, it's beautiful, and it's a great breakdown. Thanks for breaking it down so detailed like that. I guess, like, I know for sure the audience is going to be asking, though you're like outsourcing some of your work, you're bringing on new team members, you're training them, you're empowering them, you're executing. How are you managing continuous learning and as well as just like that? I hate though, like the term work-life balance, but you get what I'm trying to say. How do you cope with that? And like, what was it? What's maybe you, for some extra context, can you share what your transition is to where you are today so that?
Yeah, sure. So started working 16, 18-hour days, transitioned to about 9 or 10-hour days once I started to hire some staff and delegate some of the items that I that I needed to. And now I work from about 9 to 3 or 4. That's now. And that's based on all the businesses. All that time isn't spent on just 5-4. It's based on, it's broken down into multiple businesses. Sorry. But ultimately now it's to the point where I don't do, like, I'm not the one designing. I'm not the one developing. I'm part of the process, and I'm providing all the tools that my team needs. You know, we go through a brand discovery with the client. We provide color palette and different things and different items, but I give our staff everything that they need to make informed decisions on things that we're doing. That's how we're able to perform at a high level. And I'm able to pull my hours back. I mean, there could be days where I could be like, you know what, I'm going to take off today. Like on Monday, I took the day completely off. My son Logan, he was like, Daddy, you know, you've been working a lot. And I'm like, I know. You know what? I'm going to take the day off. Boom, took the day off. I'm checking in on Slack and Asana. My team's getting everything done, and I'm good for the day. So, for now, it's like I work 9 to 4, but I don't necessarily have to. But I do it to put myself in a position ahead, so that way my team has everything that they need, and I can start to build these recurring income streams that don't have to directly correlate to me doing work.
That's beautiful, man. You kind of dove into it a few conversations back, but you mentioned starting blackwallet.org and some other ventures. How did you know when you were ready to start a new venture, right? Because that's something that once you get that entrepreneur tick or experience a little success, you're like, man, I want to try a bunch of you go on this high, and you start buying domains, you start reserving Instagram accounts, Twitter accounts, TikTok accounts now. So I'm curious to know, like, what was your check boxes, your requirements that
it's in the beginning. So I always have a ton of ideas, man. You know how it is as an entrepreneur. You have an idea, and it's like you can't get it out of your mind until you start to do something with it. So it's always in the back of your mind, what am I going to do with this? I have to do something. So in the beginning, and I've had tons of products, ideas that have failed. I probably had 14 or 15 startups, maybe half or more failed, right? But I learned a lot in that process, which we talked about earlier. So one of my first ones was a Kickstarter campaign for an app that I wanted to launch. I was into it. I loved it. Failed, right? Then I had another e-commerce store that I started. Failed. Then I created another e-commerce store. I ended up building that, scaling that one, sold it. And I did that 2 more times after that with some more e-commerce stores. So the best time to do it is to make sure that the side hustle that you're creating, or the additional business you're creating, can leverage the skills or the resources of your main business. So if you look at a lot of entrepreneurs that have multiple businesses, it's almost like a solar system, right? You have all these planets that are in orbit of each other, and they're all using the power of the main business, which is the sun. I know it's a corny analogy, but that's pretty much how my businesses work now. So if I break it down for you, we have 54 Digital, which is the main agency. We do web design, branding. We also do content marketing. Blackwallet.org, I leverage our entire team to scale that, right? We post on social media. We do the content writing and blogs. It's almost like blackwallet.org is an additional client, but it's actually our own internal business. Then you have another tier where you have my personal brand, johnDSaunders.co. Now that is pretty much a recurring income stream because I have online courses. I have paid resources like job templates and the standard operating procedure masterclass. So I'm repurposing the standard operating procedures in the 54 Digital business, repurposing those and giving those to other agency owners, charging a fee, and then giving away some free goods as well. So as you can see, everything's kind of working in tandem with each other. And then the last piece, Black Illustrations. And just so the crazy thing is all of these businesses are 6-figure businesses. So standing by themselves, they can all last and have enough foundation. So with Black Illustrations, I launched that 3 months ago because as a web designer, I just didn't see a lot of diversity in the illustrations online. I'm like, we have a full-time designer, we have a full-time developer. Why don't we just develop our own platform, and then we can have free and premium illustration packs? And then boom, the idea came, the spark came, we built it, we ran with it, and now that's a sustainable business. So I just recommend anyone that's trying to start another business or like a side hustle, try and leverage the resources from your first one. So it's not a complete deviation of what you're doing and it's taking too much time where your main money maker isn't getting the attention it needs.
Hit it on the monkey. You might want to stop it and rewind that and write everything down because he just gave you the blueprint.
Oh man.
So
yeah, I was saying it, and it still sounds kind of good though. But it's,
in like 60 seconds. It was awesome.
Nah, but it's the truth, man. It really is. It really is.
And it's awesome that you're able to start articulate it in a simple way, right? It's almost like you want to say common sense, but when you're doing it all and you don't have that clarity, it could be challenging, right? And it's because you just don't know what you don't know. So hopefully we shared some clarity with the audience, an enlightening moment. And what about your continuous learning as we get toward kind of wrapping up here? I'm curious to know, like, you mentioned you got 9 to 4, you know, like you're obviously your family is a priority in your life. What have you, I guess, what would you say, like what learning style works for you, right? Because one of the things I picked up this book called Ultra Learning, and it's like mind blowing for me right now, changing the game. And I'm curious to know, like, what effective learning tactics do you use that are, you know, time effective? Because you could watch a bunch of videos, read a bunch of books, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know you have the experience or you can execute what you've consumed, the knowledge you've acquired, right? One of the things I like about the book that I'm reading is that it talks about having an active learning plan versus a passive learning plan. And that was like a game changer for me. Like I want to, you know, one is you're accumulating knowledge, the passive one, and then the active one is you're accumulating skills. And I think you're in line with the skill development. And I just kind of wanted to see if you can shed a little light into
Yeah,
how you go about acquiring a new skill.
yeah, I do a few things, man. One, I read a lot. You know, I love books. It's always been a thing for me where I can pay 15, 20 bucks and I can learn from an expert about what to do. And then with each book, I take my notes, I write in my tabs, and then I take notes and I try to execute at least one thing from that book each week. So that's one, reading books, and I switch it up. I'll do a business book, then I'll do like a UI UX book, then I'll do a novel. I just finished Dune last month, which is a sci-fi epic. So you mix it up to just get your creative juices flowing. That's one, reading, fundamental, and then actually implementing the things that you're learning in those books. Second is, or third, would be online courses. So I take online courses by people that are the best in the field. So I probably spent, I don't even know, man, thousands and thousands of dollars on courses. The Future, I bought in their courses. Rand Siegel, who's with Webflow, I bought their courses. So I don't necessarily recommend just any random courses from, and listen, there are great courses on Skillshare, Udemy that you can take, especially as you're starting out. For me, I'm looking at more so people that are masters in their field and taking their courses as well. So yeah, man, it's just whatever you want to learn, take those courses and then test it with a side project. Like I said, so for example, if you're learning UI UX from an amazing designer on Skillshare or Udemy or any of those websites, take those ideas and build a mock-up, build a mock-up of the Ben & Jerry website or build a mock-up of, another website. Worst case scenario, you can use that for your portfolio and show that to potential clients. So that's another thing is taking courses and then leveraging the skills that you're learning into like a side project.
Love it, man. And you talked about Black Wallet, you talked about Black Illustrations. I mean, there's sustainable businesses right now, and you got those up and running rather quickly. What has the impact been so far? Like, how do you feel about those projects? Because at the same time, like, we are like, it's on the money with everything that's going on socially, at least in the U.S. and I mean, really throughout the world. So
but I can't even put it into words sometimes, man. It's been so amazing what people have been saying. With Black Wallet, it's one of those things where people are like messaging me and saying, hey, your book taught me so much, or hey, I learned how to do this, and now I started my savings account. It's just the feedback has been amazing, but I haven't had feedback like I had with Black Illustrations, man. The messages that I get are people literally, dude, it's insane, man. I tear up just thinking about it because people are reaching out to me. They're emailing me like, I never thought I'd be able to see myself in these illustrations. And, I downloaded your illustration pack for Harvard and the CDC and Google. People at these high level Fortune 500 companies are downloading these illustrations and using them. And it's just, it's remarkable, man. It's been an amazing journey. And like I said, when people start a side hustle, I knew it would do well because I did the keyword research, but I didn't know it would have this type of impact. We've had over 40,000 downloads on the website. We've had over 400,000 visits to the site. It's already scaled up to be a 6-figure business. I opened in April. So it's one of those things where it's two parts, right? And there's an entrepreneur, his name is Ezra Firestone. He's like an e-commerce guru. He says a quote where he says, basically, it's something to the effect of, give selfishly, and profit, right? So you're giving selflessly to the community, and then in exchange, you're able to profit from that and live a sustainable life. So yeah, man, it's been amazing, remarkable. The messages that I've been getting. And so with Black Illustrations, and then this is another thing, I started another side hustle based off of that, where we were getting a lot of inquiries for people like, hey, I'd like to hire a Black illustrator. Are you guys taking on custom work? And we would get so many inquiries where I was like, there's no way we can fulfill all of these. What we'll do is we'll launch another platform called illustratorhub.com, where now we have a platform where Black illustrators can go in, sign up, and then companies can go in on the website, look at their work, and then be able to hire them. And we launched that in like the week before last. And dude, the inquiries that we've been getting are amazing. I just sent a message today on Twitter of a guy who hired someone on Illustrator Hub, and they're doing all their work. He's so proud of the work that they've done. And dude, it just feels great, man. It's a great feeling that I get to wake up every day. This is gonna sound corny as hell, but I get to wake up every day and create these awesome digital products that people use.
It does not sound corny at all, man. That's awesome. That's a lot of fulfillment right there. Not everybody gets to experience that. So awesome. I'm glad we're able to share a little bit about that. I guess on the last topic I wanted to mention is, like, right now, obviously there's a lot of people that have been going through unemployment, or they're at jobs, or they now have to absorb more work because of everything that's going on. Like, what advice would you give these individuals that are in those situations but still have that vision to maybe one day have a business, or what words of not only encouragement but actionable advice would you give them that
I think that
are exploring or expanding their spare time? Or
the silver lining in all of this is the fact that people are able to see that they can be productive from home, working from home. Now, it might be harder with kids. I have a 3-year-old, so I know how it is. But I truly believe that now people are able to see, like, you can be productive from home. You can work and run a business from home. You can run a business remotely. Google just extended the at-home orders for all their employees until June 2021. So, I mean, Google already knows. A lot of companies are on board. So for me, I recommend someone that's potentially been laid off or furloughed from their job is to really think about the skill sets that you have and do a few things. One, you can take your skills and your assets and turn them into digital products. Everybody's online right now. Everybody is buying. Everyone wants to learn. Everyone wants to absorb new skills. So if you're great at crocheting, or you're a great artist, or you're amazing at yoga, you can create digital products, right? Create a PDF, create a video program for potential clients, and really start to build a community of people that follow you and that you're providing with value. And then you can create digital products to supplement some of that income. Quick ways to do that: you can use Samcart, or you can use Gumroad. You can literally sell a product in 30 minutes. So I definitely think that people should be transferring their skills into digital products, because it's a huge revenue stream, and there's little to no overhead. When you sell a digital product, that's it. You might pay taxes. Not taxes. You might pay a processing fee. That's it. You don't have to ship a product. You don't have to ship anything. It's already done. So that's my first piece of advice. And secondly, explore new ideas. Check out new business ventures. There are so many resources out there. Just go on Skillshare and say, hey, what's something that you wanted to learn? A digital skill that you wanted to learn. You'll be able to, even if you don't necessarily make it a career, it could be a new skill set that you can add that'll make you stand out more on your resume. So yeah, that's pretty much some quick advice I got for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think on that note, we'll call it a day here on the podcast. But John, I want to thank you for opening up.
No worries.
Sharing all the value that you do. I mean, you're a person I follow along with thousands of people. So it's truly an honor to have you on. You're my third guest, so I'm excited.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm excited to continue to share. And interesting fact, like I've been putting everything on. Well, I put the first episode on YouTube. The next one will probably go out next week. I interviewed David Martin, which
Yes.
shared a ton of value as well. The first episodes, I mean, it's done hours, like I think some stupid number of hour watch time on YouTube.
Wow.
It's super cool to see that. And again, it was like this whole thing was like an experiment of, do people want this? Also shared it on LinkedIn. Been watched, like the trailer's been watched like a few thousand times.
Wow. Nice, man. I love that.
LinkedIn's got a lot of organic reach right now, so taking advantage of that. And I feel like the corporate community is like dying for this type of information.
Absolutely.
Right? People that were working, that, you know, were able to make that transition, better themselves, still continue to create impact, and still develop their career. So I think right now is a great time for this type of information on a platform like LinkedIn, and YouTube as well. So happy to have you and to
thank you for having me, Gabe. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much, John.
You're welcome, brother.
You have a good day, man.
You too, man.
All right, bye.